Grynch.
Oh, good evening, friends, horror fans, lovers of the occult. This is your host, Grynch, and welcome to the brand new room for the Grynch channels. From here on in, this is where we will be. I'm sorry if you missed the bedposts in the back, but they're gone. So tonight is sort of a new beginning. It's funny that the trilogy of the top 10 horror stories with twist endings coincided, the close of that trilogy coincided with the moving of the rooms. It sort of just happened that way. It wasn't planned. But I still want to bring you guys the fun that I know this channel can attain when we entertain our brains with good storytelling and good stories. I don't know about good storytelling, but one can only hope. So tonight is sort of the start of a new series as I transition into a new job, as I transition to a new room. I sort of have to come up with things as I grow the channel and still try to keep it interesting. So what we're going to do for the next couple of weeks is we're going to read from an old favorite of mine. This is, I just bought this recently, but because I couldn't find my originals from the 90s, but what we are going to be looking at is the trilogy of scary stories to tell in the dark. And here we are in the dark, telling these stories. So I wanted to read 3 tonight, and this might end up being a little bit shorter of an episode, but I promise once things get settled, we'll try to return to the 20-minute episodes where we try to get at least 5 or 6 of these stories in, and then when I run out of good ones here, maybe we'll move into some creepypastas and Reddit stuff. So that's what you can expect in the coming weeks. But for now, for tonight, let's look at 3 of my favorites. We're going to read The Viper, followed by The Attic, and lastly, one of my all-time favorites, Let's Wait Till Martin Comes. So without further ado, let's begin. The Viper. A widow lived alone on the top floor of an apartment house. One morning her telephone rang. "Hello," she said. "This is the Viper," a man said. "I'm coming up." Somebody's fooling around, she thought, and she hung up. A half hour later, the telephone rings again. It was the same man. "It's the Viper," he said. "I'll be up soon." The widow didn't know what to think, but she was getting frightened. Once more, the telephone rang. Again, it was the Viper. "I'm coming up now." She quickly calls the police. They said they would be right over. When the doorbell rang, she sighed with relief. Thank God they're here, she thought. But when she opened the door, there stood a little old man with a bucket and a cloth. "I am the Viper," he said. "I wish to wash and wipe your windows." The Attic. A man named Rupert lived with his dog in a house deep in the woods. Rupert was a hunter and a trapper. The dog was a big German shepherd. named Sam. Rupert had raised Sam from a pup. Almost every morning, Rupert went hunting, and Sam stayed behind and guarded the house. One morning, Rupert was checking his traps, and he got a feeling that something was wrong at home. He hurried back as fast as he could, but when he got there, he found that Sam was missing. He searched the house and the woods nearby, but Sam was nowhere to be found. He called and he called, but the dog did not answer. For days, Rupert looked for Sam, but he could find no trace of him. Finally, he gave up and went back to his work. But one morning, he heard something moving in the attic. He picked up his gun. Then he thought, I'd better be quiet about this. So he took off his boots, and at his bare feet, he began to climb the attic stairs. He slowly took one step, then another, then another, then another, until he reached the attic door. He stood outside listening, but he didn't hear a thing. Then, he grabs the doorknob, turns it ever so slowly, slides the door open, peers inside, and... Let's wait till Martin comes. An old man was out for a walk. When a storm came up, he looked for a place to take shelter. Soon he came to an old house. He ran up on the porch and knocked on the door. But nobody answered. By now, rain was pouring down, thunder was booming, and lightning was flashing. So he tried the door. When he found it was unlocked, he went inside. Except for a pile of wooden boxes, the house was empty. He broke up some of the boxes and made a fire with them. Then he sat down in front of the fire and dried himself. It was so warm and cozy that he fell asleep. When he woke up, a black cat was sitting near the fire. It stared at him for a while. Then it purred. That's a nice cat, he thought. And he dozed off again. When he opened his eyes the second time, there was another cat in the room. But this one was as big as a wolf. It looked at him very closely, and it asked, "Shall we do it now?" "No," said the other cat. "Let's wait till Martin comes." "I must be dreaming," thought the old man. He closed his eyes once again. Then he took another look, but now there was a third cat in the room. This one was as big as a tiger. It looked the old man over and it asked, "Shall we do it now?" "No," said the others. "Let's wait till Martin comes." The old man jumped up, jumped out the window, and started running. "When Martin comes, you tell him I couldn't wait!" And he was gone into the night. Should we read one more? I feel like maybe we can read one more. I haven't read these in a long time, but we'll end with The Ghost with the Bloody Fingers. A businessman arrived at a hotel late one night and asked for a room. The room clerk told him the hotel was all filled up. There was only one empty room. He looked at him and said, "We don't rent that one because it is haunted." "I'll take it," said the businessman. "I don't believe in ghosts." The man went up to the room, he unpacked his things, and he went to bed. As soon as he did, a ghost came out of the closet. Its fingers were bleeding, and it was moaning, "Bloody fingers! Bloody fingers!" When the man saw the ghost, he grabbed his things and ran. The next night a woman arrived very late. Again, all the rooms were taken except the haunted room. And again, the clerk told her, "We don't rent that room because it is haunted." "I'll sleep there," she said. "I'm not afraid of ghosts." As soon as she got into bed, once again the ghost came out of the closet. Its fingers were still bleeding, and it began moaning, "Bloody fingers! Bloody fingers!" And the woman took one look and ran. A week goes by, and yet another guest arrives very late. He also took the haunted room. After he unpacked, he got out his guitar and he began to play. Soon the ghost appeared. As before, its fingers were bleeding, and it was moaning, "Bloody fingers! Bloody fingers!" The man paid no attention. He just kept strumming his guitar. But the ghost kept moaning, and its fingers kept bleeding. Finally, the guitar player looked up. "Cool it, man," he said. "Get yourself a Band-Aid." This has been Grynch After Midnight. If you haven't already, please subscribe and join our community. And be looking out for the next one, where we tell more scary stories in the dark. And we'll see you, my friends, horror fans, and lovers of the occult, next Friday after midnight. Good night.